It's finally official. We will be able to play Kerbal Space Program 2 starting February 24th, 2023 in early access. Hello everybody and welcome! We got some big KSP2 news today, and since there's a lot to cover, I'm going to split things up in 3 videos. This one detailing the development timeline and what you can expect from early access. The second one is going to analyze the new gameplay footage, which I will enhance with some insights that come directly from the development team. That's planned for Sunday, so you don't have to wait too long. The third will focus on the new user interface, which now appears to be in its final form, or at least very close to that. That video will come out next week on Friday. Make sure you're subscribed and have clicked the bell so you will get notified as soon as each new material is up. Alright, now that we got that out of the way, let's dig into the early access announcement itself. More than 3 years after the first announcement for Kerbal Space Program 2, we finally have a date when you and I can start building, flying and crashing rockets in the sequel to the original game. Early access will start on February 24th, 2023, and it will cost $49.99 which is approximately yay much in other currencies. Yes, that's significantly more than the original Kerbal Space Program cost when it entered early access. But on the other hand, you will already get a much more polished game than what we had in the early days of KSP1. I know a lot of you were asking for early access, so this is great news for everyone, right? Well, let's remind ourselves what early access means. We will not receive the full KSP2 experience. It also won't be KSP1 but better. It will actually have less features than the current game. If we look at the developer's roadmap, we can see that science gathering and tech progression will not be available in February. Basically, what you can expect is a sandbox game experience with all planets and moons of a revamped Kerbular system and overhauled core mechanics, which I will talk about in more detail in the upcoming video on Sunday. Things that also won't be in the early access version yet are colonies, interstellar travel, and multiplayer. The last one will actually be the final early access milestone before the full release of the game, whenever that's going to happen. While the team surely has some internal dates they want to hit, we can only speculate when each new iteration of KSP2 will be available. So why not have more inside the game? If you have ever designed or developed software, you will have seen this phenomenon. Whatever cool thing you come up with and put into code, as soon as an actual user gets their hands on it, their experience will be different from what you anticipate. That's why basically all modern software development is based on an inspect and adapt approach. Produce small, viable product increments in quick iterations, get feedback from actual users, or in KSP2's case, players, and then adjust your software until the next iteration. Yes, KSP2 has been in development for what feels like an eternity. More on that later, but I would assume we will see updates a lot quicker after early access has kicked off. Basically, the goal of the developers is to validate their many assumptions about the core mechanics of the game. A lot has changed compared to the original Kerbal Space Program, and the developers want to make sure that these core mechanics work correctly before moving on to the more high-level stuff like colonies and interstellar travel. That does not mean that these later features are not yet in a playable state. I was able to extract some information on multiplayer from the team, which I will share in my upcoming video, where I dissect the announcement video. As I said in the beginning, it's a lot of information to go through. One of the core mechanics they want to validate is the new user interface, which I will specifically highlight in next week's video. But let's return to the feedback part of development. From February 24th onwards, the developers will be monitoring multiple channels to see how the early access iteration is being received and what people think of the new user experience. So if you're planning on getting KSP2 in early access, like I certainly will, then do yourself and the entire KSP community a favor and drop your feedback over at the KSP forums or on Twitter or even the comment section of videos I will definitely post as soon as I can have my hands on the game. Just try to find the time to say more than just "it sucks" if something doesn't work like it should, or rather doesn't work like you expect it to. Tell everyone what you would have actually expected or how the experience could have been better for you. This gives the developers a better idea what they should tweak to make the game more enjoyable for you. KSP1 was started by Harvester alone, but it became such a huge success because we all worked on it as a community. Many features were changed or tweaked based on the players' feedback. The fact that KSP2 will also go this route gives me hope that it too will become a great experience for us space nerds. And our feedback will also influence development priorities. For instance, robotic parts introduced with the Breaking Ground expansion for KSP1 will not be in the early access release. But if there is enough demand from the player base, development priorities could shift and robotics could maybe move up higher on the list. In ancient times, software was done straight by the book, sometimes literally, rigidly adhering to requirements defined sometimes ages ago. But nowadays, changing requirements, even late in the process, is recognized as an asset. The closer you get to your development target, the better you can refine what you actually want your software to do. And for KSP2, players' feedback will provide the basis for that. So, how long will early access take for KSP2 to be polished into its final form? Well, as the resident KSP2 historian on YouTube, I looked into a few dates. Development on the original Kerbal Space Program started in January 2011. It first came out as version 073 on June 24, 2011. The official version 1.0 was released on April 27, 2015. It took more than 4 years for KSP1 to leave early access. Will KSP2 require the same amount of time? Well, as I said in the beginning, we're going to get a much more polished version than we got with the first early access version of KSP1, which is to be expected since that was developed by a single person and an entire studio is behind KSP2. So we probably won't have to wait an additional 4 years. I hope. But how long have they been already working on it? The first official announcement for a sequel came out in August 2019. 3.5 years later, the game will reach the early access phase. But of course, the developers didn't start a week before the first trailer came out. Unfortunately, I was not able to get any straight answer out of them, and believe me, I have asked repeatedly how long before the announcement they had started. The only hint we have is an entry on SteamDB. If you browse the entry for Kerbal Space Program 2, you will find 3 packages. The oldest is called Mercury and it is dated September 28, 2018. Fun thing about that, the Mercury project was the first human spaceflight program of the United States. Also, one of the media asset files distributed together with the first trailer had Mercury announcement in the file name. So yeah, KSP2 was codenamed Mercury before it became official and development had started at least a year before the first trailer came out. This means when KSP2 will go into early access, it will have already been in development for 4.5 years, minimum. If you compare that to AAA titles like Assassin's Creed Valhalla or GTA 5, development for each took roughly 3 years, maybe 2.5 to 3 years. So that's already a long time for Kerbal Space Program 2 to be in development. And come February, it will not be finished yet. But as I said before, it will be up to us to help mold it into something that will be a worthy successor to the beloved original. Personally, I can't wait to finally try it out. And if I find stuff in there that I don't like, I know there is a team working on this that is passionate about Kerbal, and they will implement feedback from the fans. Some of you might have already seen the announcement video and recognized a few names in there. Many from the original KSP development team are now working on KSP2, and there are also experienced modders like Chris Adderley, who some may better know under his forum name Nertia. He worked on the fantastic mod Restock, which I highlighted in a video a few years ago. Link up top and in the description. Now I would like to hear from you. What are you going to do? Will you jump onto the early access release and immediately start playing, knowing that many of the features originally promised will not yet be in the game? Or do you prefer to wait even longer until it is actually finished? Let me know in the comments down below or over on my Discord server. Link is in the description. Are you excited? I certainly am. The Mercury project was the first human space. The first human space. The Mercury.
Again.
The Mercury. 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 That word's gonna kill me.
If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe to my channel for more and follow me on my social thingies. The links are in the description. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.